Afternoon. It's great to be at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Thanks, Sheriff Cronister, for hosting us. We also have the State Attorney, Susie Lopez, with us. We've got Captain Christina Quenneville from Lakeland and Special Operations, District Commander, Florida Highway Patrol. I think Kevin Guthrie, is he here? Okay, yeah. He's actually not speaking at this one for the first time in many weeks where he's been up at the mic speaking. We have Dave Kerner, Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles Director, General John Haas, Florida National Guard. We have Representative Gonzalez Pittman, Senator Jay Collins, and then we've got a number of folks who are going to come up here in a minute from some of our police and fire organizations that support law enforcement, support our sheriff's deputies, and support our firefighters, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But first, we just have to point out, we're here at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. We've had two major storms in the last few weeks, and we said before the first storm and before the second storm, don't even think about using those as an opportunity to take advantage of people who may be in dire straits. If you loot, if you're engaging in illegal activity, we're going to hold you accountable. And that's been a commitment that was made, and it's been a commitment that's been upheld across all state agencies, whether it's our Highway Patrol, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, whether it's Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, who got somebody trying to take a generator away from a power light, Daytona Beach, arresting people for looting, Sarasota, going in, a guy was breaking into an apartment complex, Port Richey, taking debris and dumping it in somebody else's private property. There's just all kinds of things that can happen after these storms, and I'm proud to say that the state of Florida has had a zero tolerance. One of the issues that we saw happen was we had somebody decide as Hurricane Milton approached that it would somehow be a good thing to take his dog and chain it to a post on the interstate. Well, we had a Florida Highway Patrol with us here today that saw that dog in distress. Dog was very rattled from that experience, rescued the dog. The dog's now in Tallahassee. It will be adopted, renamed Trooper. But we said at the time, you don't just tie up a dog and have them out there for a storm. Totally unacceptable, and we're going to hold you accountable. Well, I'm proud to announce that the authorities have identified the dog's former owners, and State Attorney Susie Lopez is now pursuing animal cruelty charges against the individual. So we said you'd be held accountable, and you will be held accountable. We also recognize that when you have these events, the folks that are in distress call, and people from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, our police offices, fire departments, of course our state agencies, they're the ones to show up. They're the ones that are working around the clock, and this is for multiple storms now. They've had to do that, but just because you're in the fight on that doesn't mean you're immune from having damage to your house or even losing your home or having other problems associated with the storm. This is something that we've recognized through past storms, including a storm like Hurricane Ian, and we want to make sure that those folks who have gone the extra mile for the community, that they're taken care of as well. And one of the ways we can do that is through the Florida Disaster Fund. This is a charitable organization that's affiliated with the state of Florida. All donations are tax deductible, and basically what comes in goes out for charitable purposes. In Hurricane Ian, the state fund raised $63 million and distributed $63 million to a whole host of causes, all that helped the folks recover from that storm. We have received donations for both Hurricanes Helene and Hurricane Milton. We have more than $12 million that's been raised just in the past couple of weeks, including a very generous $5 million contribution from the home builder Lennar, and we want to thank them. Walmart did $1 million, and many others have done a lot. So we have this, and we want to be able to put it into practice to help folks who need it. So I'm proud to be here today in Hillsborough County to announce through the Florida Disaster Fund, we will be awarding $400,000 to support Florida's first responders, and we will apportion that $400,000 the following: $100,000 each to the following groups: the Florida Firefighters Charities Fund, the Florida PBA Heart Fund, Florida Sheriff's Association Fund, and the Florida State Lodge FOP Memorial Foundation. Those organizations will be able to use that for whatever they need to be able to help folks in need. So maybe they have a police officer who lost a home, or who has damage, or who needs some help, who lost a vehicle. There's a whole host of things that can happen, and they're able to go, or maybe you just need some temporary assistance. Now, granted, we are approved for individual assistance. We do have temporary lodging options. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, have we been approved for TSA yet? Okay, so we're waiting for FEMA to approve TSA, but they have done other stuff, and the state has options. And of course, obviously, people, their cars, their homes, hopefully, have adequate insurance for that, but not everyone does, and there's other needs that arise that some of those things may not be doing the trick. So this is gonna allow those organizations to help and stand up and support their members. So I'm glad to be able to do this. I think it's really, really significant. What we'll do is we'll hear from some of the other speakers, then I'll bring everybody up to accept the check. So first we'll hear from the State Attorney, 13th Judicial Circuit, Susie Lopez.
Thank you, Governor. I sheltered right here with the men and women of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and got to see heroism up close last week. Thank you all for putting your lives on the line each and every day, all while they were away from their families. It's exactly why when I saw people committing crimes during the storm, the man who stole the generator like the governor just talked about, it made me really, really angry, because the good guys are out helping our residents and the criminals are preying on our residents. But guess what? In Hillsborough County, you're going to pay the price. We're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Criminals face harsher penalties, as a matter of fact, during a state of emergency, which we were in last week. We are in one now. And you better believe that I will make sure that they face the music. The crimes that can be enhanced as of now include burglary, robbery, theft, contracting without a license. I'll tell you what, though, everywhere I went this week, people were talking about the storm, what was going on, their electricity, and they were talking about a dog named Trooper. The fact that someone could just leave this defenseless animal tied to a pole on the interstate as we were facing a Category 5 hurricane is absolutely impossible for me as a dog owner and dog lover, as so many in our community are. Impossible for me to imagine. Trooper touched the hearts of a lot of people, not only in Hillsborough County, all across the country, including mine. And I want our community to know that we've had a lot going on. We take animal cruelty very, very seriously in Hillsborough County. We protect our most vulnerable citizens, the elderly, children, and our four-legged friends. You don't get away with doing what this man did in Hillsborough County. Not under my watch. No one should ever commit an act of animal cruelty, but you should especially not do so, one, in Hillsborough County, and two, during a state of emergency. This defendant will be charged with aggravated animal cruelty. That's a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in the Florida State Prison for what he did to Trooper. Unfortunately, this isn't one of those crimes that now is enhanced during a state of emergency. I frankly think it should be. And I believe that it's time that once again, lawmakers take a look at adding animal cruelty to the list of crimes that can be enhanced during a state of emergency. If you're a pet owner, like me, you know that you will do anything to protect your pet, and we should be protecting our pets during a storm, not leaving them for dead. Trooper was found by a trooper named Trooper Morales, who's here with us today, who found him in water up to his neck. He was facing a sure death, but for the brave actions of Trooper Morales, and we're so grateful for him. I want to thank the governor for his leadership during this time and throughout the storm. Your team has been crisscrossing the state, and many of them are here today to make sure that our residents and agencies have the resources that they need, and we are all very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, Chad.
Thank you. As you can tell, it's not a coincidence that crime we've experienced such a tremendous, significant crime reductions since your partnership the last 2 years. Madam State Attorney, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for your partnership. In times like this, after facing 2 major storms, you can't get through this without help. Governor, that help always starts with you. Out of the 4,000 employees here at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, we've had 80 employees that have been impacted by this latest storm. The 2 deputies behind me, Deputy Corporal Kafila and Sheriff's Pilot Thunderbook, have both been displaced from their home. Large trees fallen into their home and filled with 16 inches of rain. And I could go on and share similar stories like this throughout our county and throughout our state where people are impacted. An employee from the storm before, where their home was flooded, she moved out and moved into a rental house, which was flooded again this storm, and she had to move into a rental. Yet these employees, all 80 of them, never missed a moment of work. They never missed the opportunity to continue and serve this community. Governor, you have been and continue to be an ardent and steadfast supporter of first responders and law enforcement, providing us with the tools, the equipment, the resources, and benefits that we need to keep all 67 counties in the state of Florida safe. Thank you, sir.
Governor, thank you for having me here today on behalf of the Florida Highway Patrol and its nearly 2,000 state troopers who work day in and day out to support amazing professional law enforcement agencies like Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Cronister, you are an outstanding leader. We're honored to work with you. We're honored to fill that gap where necessary and serve the public as a partner with your agency and with every other law enforcement agency in the state of Florida. I think you hit it on the head, Sheriff, about law and order. What does that allow us to do when we have a governor, when we have a state attorney that really stands behind law enforcement? And I think that these 2 storms, and really the full spectrum of storms that Florida has seen through the leadership of Governor DeSantis, is that when the criminals know that there's going to be a price to pay, it allows and it empowers law enforcement to serve other needs in the community simultaneously. We can both enforce the law and serve our citizens in very unique ways, whether it's driving a skid steer, whether it's doing search and rescue, whether it's moving debris out of the roadway and getting Florida back on its feet. I know that I speak for the Florida Highway Patrol when I say that we take honor and pride in doing those duties, and that is a direct reflection of Governor DeSantis' leadership, standing behind us and letting the bad element know that that's not going to stand in the state of Florida. And I say, as a former prosecutor and as a former and now current law enforcement officer, how amazing it is to have a prosecutor like you, State Attorney Lopez. We in law enforcement know that we can do all the work on the street, but if it's not received and prosecuted passionately by your office, then what is it really worth, right? And so I'm prideful for a lot of reasons today to being in this room with law enforcement officers. One of those reasons is standing next to the governor. One of the other reasons is Trooper Morales, who is just a regular trooper working his shift in a storm when he found a dog that's now named Trooper, and he took that extra step, extra mile, and saved that dog. But it didn't stop there. What I can tell you is, while I wasn't involved in the investigation, I followed it closely. Trooper Morales worked diligently through an emergency, doing all of his duties, working with your office, who was, by the way, outstanding, proactive, helped us secure a warrant, and that defendant is now in jail on a felony charge. That's the type of law enforcement that this leadership brings to the state of Florida. So we thank you, Governor. The other issue that the sheriff covered already is, in your community alone, you said 80 deputies were impacted. Fortunately, being a statewide agency, I think we only had 3, at least in this county, that were severely impacted. But one of them is here today, Captain Quinneville, who's the Special Operations District Commander for this area. I think you're going to have an opportunity to speak in a moment. But I had an opportunity to speak with the captain last night, and first of all, Governor, we're delighted to have the financial support, and the PBA and all these other organizations I know will distribute it in an impactful way to our law enforcement officers. But what I took away from my conversation with the captain was when I asked what is it that the Highway Patrol could do at this point for you, and for just a little bit of background, a tree fell on her roof in the middle of the storm, big hole in the roof, the electrical system was taken out, she was flooded in. You know, the one comment that stuck with me, and this is not unique to the Florida Highway Patrol, it is not unique to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, but it is unique, I think, to law enforcement and first responders. Her response was, "Sir, I just want to be able to get back to work. I want to be with my troops. I want to be able to serve this community. And so anything you can do to help me get back to work, that's what I really want to do." And that is law enforcement in the state of Florida under Governor Ron DeSantis. That is law enforcement under the leadership of state attorneys like State Attorney Lopez and our other strong prosecutors that hold people accountable. Trooper Morales, thank you for what you have done for the people of the state of Florida and for a trooper in particular. I know we'll get him adopted hopefully in the near future. And of course, Sheriff Chronister, it is an honor as always to work with you and your deputies. What a professional and impactful law enforcement agency. Thank you for having me here today, Governor.
Okay. Super.
Thank you, Governor.
Yep.
And all of you here, I know I've known you for several years, and it's always a pleasure to work with members of your department. I appreciate your directness in prosecuting issues in this county, in this area. It's fantastic. Director, thank you for having me. I was asked just to speak a little bit about my experience. I realize that mine is not singular. There are many people in this community, in this room, first responders that were affected not only adversely by Milton, but of course Hurricane Helene. We have some members of our department that have lost everything. So it's very poignant to look at it right now, you know, eyes on, right in front of me, as opposed to looking at it from a distance. Oh, that's Miami, that's Pensacola. And we prepare for this as agencies. We prepare for this from the emergency response perspective. And throughout my career, 29 years now, it's been emboldening and enlightening to watch how emergency response in general in Florida and in the individual communities here in this county and in the troop that I serve have gotten better and better at preparing, at notifying the public, and at responding subsequently to these disasters, to these hurricanes. And in my experience, I had finished my shift on, I'm losing track of the days here, on the day the hurricane was coming in. Pardon me. And I got home at 6 o'clock, and my plan was to shelter in place with my parents who live on the same parcel as me in a mobile home. It's obviously very risky for them. We're surrounded by lots of trees. So we brought them over, and sometime during the passing of the storm, I had trees falling all around my house, obviously one entered my roof. And my plan was to try to patch that up and put a chainsaw on my vehicle, and when the sun rose, see if I could navigate a way out of my property and go to work. My plan was to navigate my way or cut my way to whatever needed to be helped first. I served mainly in a coordinating role, and I've done that through my career, interacting with the various functions of the emergency response function, of the local EOCs, and that has been rewarding to me. But now to be kind of a subject of it, going, this is the real experience for me, where I have to put aside what my duty is, which is hard for me. So I instead, since I could not leave my residence, I had many problems going on, I was put into a role of how can I coordinate with intermittent cell service, with no Wi-Fi, what can I still do? So I found there was a lot I could accomplish to still keep that momentum, keep our people where they needed to go. Eventually, I reached a point, unfortunately, where I couldn't, because I had to take care of my parents. We had to evacuate them because we had encroaching flooding, and if I didn't get them out, there would be no leaving. So I became an island for a while. My parents, we brought them to a safe place. But I say all that to say, experiencing the help of agencies, of our agency in particular for me, and knowing how well our emergency response works in this state. Thank you, Governor, for spearheading that. Every press conference I watched, there's our director, there's the EOC director, there's you, Governor, making it very clear this is the response we're rolling out. This is what we're doing for you, citizens and visitors to the state of Florida, and I see we have a very smooth operation. We're prepared for these things. We can't be prepared for every eventuality, but we pivot and we find the resources and we work together as a team in this great state. So I'm glad to be able to just share a little bit of my experience. And like I said, I'm looking forward to remedy the little problems I have at home. They're small things compared to some people. We have people that are suffering in the state, and I want to do what I can do to help them. So thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Good job. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to bring the money up now, bring these checks up. So representatives from all of our first responder, LEO, fire organization, you guys want to just come up here and we'll present and we'll do a Polaroid here. Firefighter. Yes, sir. All right, congratulations, good job. All right, well, we're going to be doing more with the disaster fund to be able to get immediate relief out to people. We just awarded to a number of private organizations that do things like muck and gut homes, debris removal, a whole bunch of things that are particularly helpful with elderly because, you know, you don't want to have elderly have to be, you know, hauling trees around their property, the branches and everything. It's also to get the muck and gut done. They were already doing that after Helene, and then obviously they had to stop with Milton, and then now they're back at it. So we really appreciate that. I think it'll be good, and we're going to be looking at other ways that we're able to help people who've been impacted by the storm. So thanks everyone who've donated. I know there's going to be more donations rolling in. We're going to work to get that out as soon as possible. That obviously doesn't mean you're not eligible for any of the assistance that's available, whether it's through individual assistance with the federal government, whether it's some of the programs that the state has. You can obviously take advantage of all that, but these organizations will come, they'll show up at your house, help you out, and it's a really, really good service to have. And then finally, just say, you know, we're preparing for the storm. There was obviously a lot of moving parts when this poor dog was left out there. We said that, you know, there would be justice for that, and we're going to nail you when we find out who did it. And that's exactly what they're doing here in Hillsborough County with State Attorney Lopez. So I'm glad that there's going to be accountability. I think people want to see that, and it just shows that we take this very seriously, and we expect you to treat animals well in the state of Florida. Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, God bless everybody. Take care.